and welcome to our Made Easy webinar series. Today we'll be talking about ERP Made Easy and the seed to sale process specifically. So my name is Joel Halverson, and I am the lead architect for ERP Cannabis. And for the webinar today, you will have the opportunity to submit questions during the webinar, which is found in the lower right corner of your screen of your WebEx view. And you can go ahead and submit a question at any time. And at the end of our session today, we will go back through and see if we have any questions. Also, I'll let you know that the webinar is being recorded and the video will be posted on the ERP Cannabis YouTube channel. So you will be able to access the video for future reference or to share it with others at that location. And also you have my contact information in front of you. And if there are any specific questions that come up after the webinar, feel free to send me an email directly or give me a phone call, whatever is most convenient, and we'd be happy to follow up with additional information. So just in terms of our presentation today, I will be going through an overview initially, and then we will have a demo, and I will be leading a majority of that demo as well, and Ben will be assisting, and Jake as well with the presentation and making sure that we have our shared screen appropriately set in front of you. So thanks to Ben and Jake for helping out today. Go to the next page. So ERP Cannabis is a complete ERP solution, and as you can see from the diagram, the ERP solution was developed with the core financials, which includes inventory management and procurement. So around that, we have added the specific cannabis industry modules, including the point of sale and customer management, which is intended primarily for dispensary or retail operations. And then on the back end, the core functionality within the ERP system for production planning. And then on top of that, as we will see in the demo today, the cultivation management module, which of course is specific to the cannabis industry, but integrated with the ERP functionality to be able to provide complete production planning, production costing type of information that then results in the calculation of an appropriate cost of goods sold based upon what is being produced and the inputs to that in terms of inventory or raw materials as well as labor costs, so that all of the activities within ERP Cannabis are integrated back to the appropriate track and trace system, which again, we will see in the demo today, where the integration is with Metric on the back end to be able to accommodate the changes that are happening within the cultivation as well as within the sales module on the ERP Cannabis side. So ERP Cannabis also includes a human resources module that also features payroll and time entry capabilities. So with all of that, there is information, of course, that is exchanged, and it includes all of the ERP functionality that you would expect from an ERP solution. So we also have a featuring a sweep-in-the-box type of concept with ERP Cannabis, so that it is a standard out-of-the-box solution that can be used to run your entire business, and based on a, a cloud-based infrastructure to be able to provide that on a basically a straightforward basis so that you can quickly implement and utilize the ERP cannabis functionality within your company. And also, the ERP cannabis solution was built for growth, and it is modular so that you are able to start out with one or a couple of the modules that may be appropriate for your business now or maybe your highest priority in terms of functionality. But then over time, as your company grows, you're able to add on additional modules and implement additional functionality so that you are able to operate and maintain, report on everything that's happening within your company. So analytics are a part of every of all that we do, and a primary reason for an ERP solution is to be able to analyze and report on everything that's happening and have full transparency into the daily operations and being able to make informed decisions from that. So SAP is our partner and supports our core ERP functionality, and combined with SAP's reputation of innovation as well as what we feel is innovative in terms of development of ERP cannabis around SAP, we will continue to build upon that and continue to innovate and improve what it is that we have developed thus far with the ERP cannabis solution. And it is available, of course, in a mobile type of environment or platform so that you are able to utilize the functionality either at your desk or out in the field, out on the floor, whatever the case might be, so that you always have access to the information, either to get information out of ERP cannabis or provide information to ERP cannabis. So next slide. So as you can see, we have a number of solution partners, including, as I already mentioned, SAP, which is the core ERP software partner. So from an ERP perspective, the ERP cannabis solution is well proven. SAP has been around for more than 40 years, nearly 50 years, and has provided ERP functionality to many different industries across the entire world. So certainly proven functional ERP system. Quintel is our implementation and development partner, and Quintel is a certified partner of SAP, and of course, with that experience since 2002, able to quickly provide the expertise that's needed to get ERP cannabis customers up and running quickly. Binzer International is our partner for our forms, workflow, and document management interface that we will again show you within the demo, but Binzer has developed enterprise software products for emphasizing simplicity across all business processes, and you'll see how we've utilized that in development of the ERP cannabis solution to make it a simplified standard way of interfacing with ERP cannabis. And Hotbox has developed our cannabis-specific modules, which will be featured in our webinar today. The cultivation module will be used, of course, for the seed-to-sale demo, but they also have developed a point-of-sale solution, which is part of our standard ERP cannabis solution as well. So they have provided that expertise and have developed the necessary integration with those modules for the compliance that's required for both cultivation as well as dispensary or retail operations. So next, we'll look at the process that we'll be going through. So from the seed to sale perspective with ERP cannabis, we've just broken it down into these 4 simple steps, which you'll see in the demo. So first, managing cultivation activities. So being able to create and process a plant batch and then post activities and materials. So essentially being able to capture the costs associated with the activities that happen within the grow or with the cultivation related activities. Of course, assigning the appropriate plant IDs, metric IDs, for example, as part of those cultivation activities and being able to integrate those assignments at the plant level with metric or whatever the required compliance system may be, and then being able to change the growth stage and the location of the plants as they move through from seed to through to maturity and ultimately to harvesting. So then producing product, being able to take the harvest of the plants and produce packages from them, and again with the ability to assign the appropriate package IDs and the relevant integration of that with, in our case, metric for the demo today, and then place those packages or those items in inventory, which then can be sold, and then being able to create the sales order for products that are going to be sold, process the delivery, assign the appropriate metric information to those delivered items, and of course record them as being transferred. So being able to do that directly within metric, but then also within ERP cannabis for purposes of invoicing and customer payment, so that would then conclude once payment has been received from the customer, the entire process of seed to sale. So that's essentially what we'll cover, but also being able to look at reporting throughout an analysis of what's happening in terms of evaluation of plan versus actual costs for the cultivation activities, being able to adjust those cost estimates based upon variances that may happen, and then automatically determine the cost of goods sold for reporting and reporting purposes. So with that, I will go in and start the demo. So I'll take over at this time. Okay, so for our demo today, we will be going through, as I just indicated with that last slide, the major steps of the seed to sale process. So getting into ERP cannabis is done by entering a user ID and password, so that based upon the permissions that are assigned to the user ID, the appropriate tiles within what we call the launchpad are displayed. So you can see, based upon the launchpad, exactly the types of things that are available. And then by clicking on the cultivation tile, we're able to move into our cultivation module. So from here, in the upper left-hand corner, you can see that in this case, we're connected to the Oregon Metric Sandbox. And so that's on the Grow dashboard. The information that's being shown is based upon the information that's in that sandbox. And that, of course, for any specific customer implementation, everything that is shown on the dashboard would be specific to your operations. And we do have the ability to customize or change that as well. So then within the module, we would set up the various locations or the rooms that would be relevant for your particular operations. Again, in the demo system, we have a lot of extra data. And then looking at specific strains in the same way, setting up what it is that you're going to be growing, all of the different varieties, and also the items, which would become essentially the products or the packages that will eventually be developed. So first step, after we have all the master data set up, would be to create a plant batch. So if we go into that section, we can then select the mother plant, the source plant, essentially for the clones that we will be creating. So as you can see, we've selected the mother plant, we've assigned a name for the plant batch that's going to be created. We've also assigned a clone as the plant batch type. We could have selected a seed if that was how they were going to be grown. And then we'll also add in the plant count. So in this case, we'll just have 3 plants that we're going to process for purposes of the demo, and then we basically create the plant batch from that. So now that the plant batch has been created, we can go ahead and find it in our plant batch listing. Again, there's a number of different plant batches that are available, and here you can see the details for that. So if we just look, for example, this just summarizes the information that we put in when we created the plant batch. It also provides the date that it was planted. So in this case, October 2nd of 2019, and that it's a clone type, and there's 3 immature plants that were initially assigned to this. And the source plant is also indicated on this summary of the plant batch. And then if we continue with that, we can then go to our reporting, which we can launch again from the Launchpad, so that when we submit that plant batch, we're essentially creating in the back end, again within the ERP system, within SAP, we're creating a process order, as we call it. So that's really the integration with the SAP backend. Okay, so we've created the plant batch. We've looked and verified that based upon creating that plant batch, we've created the appropriate process order on the back end, which is important because that process order is going to be how we actually capture all of the costs associated with the cultivation or the grow activities that would be assigned to that particular plant batch. So again, if we go back and select that plant batch, we can add various materials. So you can see that now that we have selected the plant batch and selected from the action drop-down that we're going to add particular items, you can see there's a long list of different raw materials that are available. Go ahead and select one of those and put in the quantity, 12 ounces in this case. So now that's been posted as a cost for that particular plant batch. We can add other materials as well, as many as might be needed. So every time that we go through this process of adding in additional information or additional costs, they're all being captured on our process order that we showed was completed previously. So in this case, we're going to also add activities or the labor component. So the activity that's been selected is for planting of the clones, and we'll add in 5 hours and again post that cost of that labor to that particular plant batch. And then we can also, for example, add feeding activities. So the idea being that all of the inventory, all of the labor costs are being captured and posted and therefore tracked as part of the normal process. So if we go again to our reporting and look at the confirmation report, we can see, for example, as we go through and filter, search for the particular process order that's been created, we can see once we have selected that, this is all live real-time data in the system. So it's capturing the information, and in this case, it is summarizing what we just put in. So we had 5 hours of time for planting the clones. We had 70 hours for fertilizing and spraying. So you can see that based upon the costs that we've assigned, we've come up with $1,600 worth of labor cost for this process order. And then we've also added in the additional material costs, the 12 ounces and the 70 ounces, for a total of $549.62. So the confirmation report provides us with a summary of all of the confirmations or all of the costs that have been posted against the individual process orders that are created through originating from the grow module. Next then, we would go ahead and assign the tags. So once the clones get up to whatever point they need to be, 8 inches or whatever the case might be, we can assign the appropriate metric tag to them. In this case, I'm just assigning them one at a time with different tag numbers, but of course they can be assigned all at the same time with consecutive tag numbers. So instead of going through this action 3 times, I could have assigned the starting tag number with the plant count of 3 and had it all done with 1 entry. Either way, we've been able to assign the appropriate metric IDs to those individual plants, and now we're able to go back to the summary and see that it now shows that we have a live count of 3 and no longer have any immature or clones that are assigned to this particular plant batch. So we've advanced the stage to the vegetative stage, which is relevant for Colorado, not necessarily in other states, but for this example, we've moved to the veg, and then next we will advance them to the flowering stage as well. So we go back and select the plant menu. We can again look at the 3 plants that have been processed to the vegetative stage and select those, and then based upon the action, we can again change that growth phase. So now we'll move to flowering and assign them to the flowering room, the new location. And once we've done that, you can see that the information's been updated, and all 3 of those plants have advanced to the flowering stage. Of course, if there's other information to be captured, that can be done at this time. But then once we've completed that, we would eventually advance to harvesting. So again, we would specify the location for the harvest, give it a harvest name, and then put in the weights of the individual plants that are part of that harvest. So in this case, the individual weights are going to total 100 grams. And I'll go ahead and process, and then selecting the harvest menu, we can see that it has been created 100 grams total for that particular harvest. We could also see the plants that have been assigned. But once we've actually gone through the harvest, we can then create the package for the 3 plants that were harvested. And so we, of course, would assign the appropriate package tag, which would be the metric ID number, and then also assign the item that these are going to be assigned to. In this case, lemon haze bud. And then put in the total weight. In this case, it's 90 grams that the package is going to be. There's a little bit of loss from the 100 grams that was harvested. And then if we again go to the packages tag or menu item, we can see that that particular package for 90 grams has been created, and the metric ID associated with that package is also provided. So once we've done that, we can then have the package that was just created that would be in the product inventory for your company. So the next step, of course, would be to process the sale associated with that package or the transfer of that package to a customer. So in order to do that, we're going to sign out from the production area of ERP Cannabis. We'll sign back in to the sales area. So now I'm going to be logging in. I have the same Launchpad format, but now the tiles have changed. So based upon the permissions that are assigned on the back end, you can see that we have different options to track sales orders, view customer invoices, and other options that would be assigned to someone who is in charge of sales. So that in order to process the sales transaction, we're going to select the sales forms. So again, these are the forms that we have set up as a primary interface for ERP Cannabis. So based upon the solution that BIMSR International has developed that I talked about in the introduction, we're able to create forms that are intuitive and user-friendly, so that in order to create a sales order, for example, I can call up the appropriate sales order form. I can select the company. So it's possible to have multiple companies set up within ERP Cannabis. So just in terms of the meaning, a company would be a separate legal entity. So however that structure may be relevant or not for your particular organization, we have a lot of flexibility to be able to accommodate different structures that companies have. And then select the customer. So we have a customer database within the ERP system, and we can then populate the necessary details for that customer, add in a purchase order number that the customer may have provided, and then select the line item details. So as we go through this process of selecting the details, we have various drop downs that are provided every time we go through the process of selecting from a drop down menu, such as was just done with the facility and the license, and now with the product. These are menus of master data that are in the ERP backend. So this is, again, live in the sense that we're getting master data and information from the backend that has just been processed. So in this particular case, we're going to be adding in the finished good that we just produced and packaged when we were in the grow module, which is the finished good lemon haze. And then we can put in the sales amount and the quantity. We had created a package of 90 grams, and so all of that is going to be included on this sales order. So then once we've completed that, we can select OK. That item is added to the line item details table, and then we click send. So when we click send, we are then having the option to submit the sales order through a workflow that can be set up. So you can see in this particular case, we have complete tracking of the process flow for the sales order and who started it. And in this particular case, it's not subject to approval, but we can easily modify the workflow for any of the forms within ERP Cannabis to be able to accommodate specific requirements that you might have in terms of approval of documents that are being created, or notifications that can automatically be sent to notify others within your organization about, for example, a sales order that's been created for a particular customer. So if we continue, you can see that the processing messages provides a summary of the sales order that's been created on the ERP backend. So once the sales order has been created, then we can go ahead and process the delivery. So again, on the whoever's processing the actual transfer of the package from the existing owner that produced the package to the customer that's purchasing the package. We can specify all of that information here. You can see that there's also an entry for a manifest number and the ability to also attach documents to any of the forms. In this case, for the outbound delivery form, you may want to attach the actual manifest that would have been created in this scenario within Metric, but you can utilize the forms not only for the workflow management feature that we saw previously, but also for document management type of functionality. So once we have put in the information at the header level, we can add in the item-specific information for referencing the sales order that we just created. So we select sales order and then the item on the sales order that needs to be processed, the quantity that we're actually delivering, and then we can also assign the batch. So within ERP Cannabis, we have the ability to assign batches so that you have complete traceability with all of the inventory movements that would happen for all of your finished products, as well as any of your raw materials that would be managed at a batch level. So in addition to the assignment of metric IDs, you can also assign specific batches within ERP Cannabis. So in this particular case, we have a batch that was automatically assigned for that 90 grams of product, and then we can also assign the metric ID for that, so that now we have a complete match between what was produced and assigned at the batch level within ERP Cannabis and how that then matches up with the metric identification number that's also required. So again, it can be subject, the delivery document can be subject to approval, and the processing messages indicate that it's been processed on the SAP backend. So we also have apps, as we call them. So these apps provide an easy way of reporting so that we can summarize, for example, everything, all of our sales order. In this case, it's saying that this sales order, 296, has been shipped, and that's an easy way of accessing and summarizing what's happening. We can also then look up particular invoice information from the sales invoice app. So in this case, the invoice has been created at the same time as the delivery, but remains unpaid, which you can see, again, from the summary that's provided when we look at that specific invoice number. Of course, the invoice can be generated and provided to the customer at the time of delivery as well. So now that we have completed the sales side of it, we can, and the delivery of the package, we can log in as a finance user, because the final step would be to actually create the payment, process the payment from the customer for the product that has been delivered. So again, in this scenario, the finance user has access to the payment forms to be able to select the customer and then the appropriate payment information that's been received from the customer. Type in a header text, been requested by Ben. It's going to be posted to our incoming payments account, and then based upon that customer, I can find the appropriate invoice for that customer, and that's going to tell us that the amount should be $1,800, and the amount that was provided is the same, so that's good. That means that we have a match. We don't have any balance that's outstanding, and we can go ahead and process that payment. So again, we have the ability to include workflow, and then the processing message indicates that the payment has been posted. So that is essentially the summary of the process from seed to sale, but I did want to just mention that as part of that, of course, we could have gone into the manufacturing side so that based upon what we actually grew in the cultivation module, the package that was eventually developed could have been used in a production scenario. So ERP Cannabis does have the ability to process production activities directly. So, for example, it may be that whatever was grown within the cultivation module is going to then be used for extraction purposes, and you're going to, create some CBD oil from that, or whatever the case might be, and that is what is going to then be sold. So with the complete ERP Cannabis functionality, we're able to accomplish that through our production capabilities. And you can see here, for example, that we have the ability to create recipes, create process orders, and then create production-related confirmations for the activities that happen in the manufacturing process. So I'm not going to go through this all at this time. I just wanted to highlight that, mention that, make you aware of that capability that exists. And then based upon that being available in the same way that we captured time and materials in the cultivation or the grow activities, we can do the same for production. So we do have a separate webinar available on the production-related functionality at our YouTube channel for ERP Cannabis. So with that, I am going to have Ben show us a little bit more on the reporting side related to the production or the seed to sale process, and specifically the cost of goods sold. So Ben, I'll send it over to you.
Okay, I'm trying to, there we go. All right, can you hear me?
Yep, go ahead, Ben.
Okay, good. So here is a report for an income statement by profit center, and that can be accessed on users' launch pads. You can see we have various standard reports available, but they can also be customized as required. And here in the income statement by profit center report, I have our finished goods and production profit center. You can see where we have our P&L and gross margin details here for our finished goods and production. So for example, the material or product that was processed from seed to sale would fall under this profit center category. You can see we have our sales revenue details and our cost of goods sold details, and also our operating expenses. So you'll notice that the cost of goods sold line item is for $190. And if I wanted to review the details further for that, we had a dashboard available for cost of goods sold. And you'll notice that our FG-HBO1 for lemon haze item is available here for the same $190 for the cost of goods sold. And you can see where we have the breakdown of these details here, where we have the amount, the quantity, and the unit cost of our FG-HBO1 lemon haze product. And of course, these dashboards or reports can be exported as a PDF and Excel spreadsheet so that they can be shared. And we can also be able to filter to review other details for the items.
Ben, could you also just show the reporting dashboard with our standard reports that are available?
Yes.
So just to, we do have a number of standard reports, and we've just shown you some through the demo that are relevant for the seed to sale process. But as you can see, we have a number of standard reports that are available with ERP Cannabis, and we do have the ability to expand these for specific requirements that you may have, or develop new reports that may not have been included with our standard reports that basically come out of the box with the ERP Cannabis solution. But just to emphasize that we do have a lot of flexibility with reporting and analysis for all of the data that is captured within ERP Cannabis. So that certainly is a strength. So just to summarize, I'd want to just go back and see if we have any questions that have been submitted. And I don't see at this point that we do, but Jake, if you would want to share just for the contact information on that final slide. If you do have any questions, please go ahead. You can submit them now, and we can cover them in the next couple of minutes. But just in terms of contact information, again, you can see my email address is there. And also, if you do have questions or looking for additional information about ERP Cannabis, please visit our website. And you can also, from our website, go directly to our YouTube channel, and you can find previous ERP Cannabis Made Easy webinars there, and also other demo videos of specific ERP Cannabis functionality. So with that, I would like to thank you for attending our webinar today. We will have more webinars coming up on a monthly basis, and we would certainly invite you to attend those. And also, if you would like to have a demo, one-on-one demo with you and others from your company, we certainly would welcome that opportunity as well. And you can contact me directly at the email address, joel.halverson@erpcannabis.com. Again, thank you everyone for attending, and have a good afternoon.